Part 43. The Best Physiognomist. Author, Yan Yun Yuchi. Chapter 421. Xintang Building, in the office of Yongsheng Group. 5 days have passed since Shen Zhenghao's funeral. Shen Loxi, who has adjusted herself, has also returned to work and started to expand the group's business. Considering that the Lu family, who have lost the protection of Shang Shenaiu, are likely to do some extreme things to Shen Loxi in a frenzy because of the bad luck they have encountered. Therefore, Zhang Fengjai returned to the state when he just arrived in Ningji City, accompanying Shen Loxi to and from get off work, and protecting her safety wholeheartedly. Of course, the office is not suitable for cultivation, so he also returned to his previous life of chasing dramas and continued to watch TV series about vampires and werewolves. Like vampires, humans who are given the first embrace by werewolves not only have the ability to transform into werewolves, but also their strength and speed increase by at least 10 times. Looking at a foreigner who was given the first embrace by a werewolf, easily punching through a steel plate, Zhang Fengjai muttered to himself and speculated. It seems that there should be some commonalities between Western vampires and werewolves and Chinese zombies. Zhang Fengjai, the chairman wants you to go to the conference room now. Just as Zhang Fengjai continued to immerse himself in the plot of the TV series about werewolves, a playful and cute beauty suddenly pushed open the office door and reminded him with a smile. Got it? After turning off the computer with a mouse, Zhang Fengjai got up and left the office and went straight to the conference room. However, when he came to the corridor leading to the conference room, he was immediately shocked by the scene in front of him. Because there were at least nearly 100 people of different genders and ages standing side by side in the corridor leading to the conference room. Oh my God, how many members of the Lu family did Luo 11 deal with? How could there be so many job seekers who passed the notes? Looking at the 100 people in front of him who were either very nervous, or looked calm, or whispered and chatted, Zhang Fengjai couldn't help but guess. At Shen Zhenghao's funeral, Shen Loxi, who was full of hatred for the Lu family, started a ruthless cleanup after using the life-saving Tianji unsword energy to force Shang Shenaiu and Lu Shaoqiu to hand over all the original shares of Yongsheng Group. Since the Lu family members in Yongsheng Group are not only numerous, but also mostly occupy relatively important positions, in order not to affect the normal operation of the group, Solitsi had already posted the recruitment information 3 days ago. At this time, Shen Loxi asked him to go to the conference room, hoping that he could use the means of face reading to eliminate those job seekers with bad intentions. At this moment, he wanted to turn around and leave immediately, because he did not expect that there would be so many job seekers. However, just as he turned around and was about to escape from the corridor and leave Xintang Building, Shen Loxi's voice suddenly came from behind. Yezi, what are you doing? Loxi, I suddenly have something urgent to go out. When he was about to leave with a random excuse, Solitsi, with a playful smile on her face, suddenly appeared in front of him, then stretched out her hand to hold his arm, and forcibly dragged him into the conference room. It is said that there are many beauties in the Zhulang group. Now it seems that the beauties in the Yongsheng group are not only of higher quality, but also more bold, a handsome young man said to his companion with excitement in his eyes. Yes. If you can successfully apply for the job, you can not only get a generous salary, but also have a chance to solve your lifelong affairs. The handsome young man's companion sighed with expectation and desire in his eyes. Whether it is the elegant Shen Loxi or the sexy and charming Solitsi, they can be said to be peerless beauties with stunning looks. Being able to work with such peerless beauties can not only get visual enjoyment, but also satisfy psychological fantasies. Therefore, when hearing the size of the two job seekers, all the male job seekers at the scene were immediately excited and expectant, but for those female job seekers with good looks, their eyes showed a look of dissatisfaction. Loxi, you want to tire me to death. Zhang Fengjai, who was forced to sit on the chair by Solitsi, couldn't help complaining. Although it is not necessary to use the gray energy to open the third eye to read the face, judging the temperament and destiny of each job seeker through the face will greatly consume the eyesight and energy. And the number of job seekers this time reached 100. I am afraid that by the end of the interview, he would have fallen asleep with stars in his eyes. Yezi, you are my only relative now. Can't you help me with a little bit of hard work? Facing Zhang Fenjai's complaint, Shen Loxi immediately pretended to be pitiful and begged. In this regard, Zhang Fenjai was too embarrassed to continue complaining except for shaking his head and smiling bitterly. Seeing the bitter smile on Zhang Fenjai's face, Shen Loxi, who knew that he was a little guilty, reminded him with reluctance in his heart. Yezi, as long as you help the company select suitable job seekers today, I will give Sister Litsi a day off in advance so that you can enjoy your two-person world. Loxi, if you want to repay Yezi, just go home, wash yourself, lie on the bed and wait. Why drag me into this? Solitsi, who has completely accepted and adapted to the mentality of Yihuang and Nuying sharing a husband, couldn't help but want to tease Shen Loxi when she heard that she was used as a reward for Zhang Fenjai's hard work. When she heard Solitsi's teasing, Shen Loxi, whose face was temporarily as thin as paper, immediately blushed and lowered her head, and complained in a low voice. Sister Litsi, you are a grown-up girl, how can you say such a thing? Loxi, this matter has nothing to do with whether you are a grown-up girl or not, I just ask you if you want it. It was rare to see Shen Loxi's embarrassment, and Solitsi's desire to tease immediately became stronger, and she couldn't help but tease more bluntly. Sister Litsi, are you ashamed? Shen Loxi didn't expect Solitsi to be so aggressive, and she almost lowered her head under the conference table. This also made Solitsi more excited to continue the attack, but she was also blushed by Wang Denmiai's words, who had been unable to bear it for a long time. Sister Litsi, if you don't feel shy, just go home and take a shower like Sister Loxi and lie on the bed waiting. Okay. When he was imagining Shen Loxi's white as snow and soft as soft jade, Wang Denmiai's proposal suddenly made him feel the expectation and instinctively agreed. You wish? Impossible. Solitsi and Shen Loxi turned their heads and scolded at the same time. In response, Zhang Fenjai, with a flash of disappointment in his eyes, could only shrug helplessly. However, after Wang Denmiai's more blatant teasing and the rebuke of the common enemy, Shen Loxi was no longer embarrassed and ordered Wang Denmiai. Denmiai, let the job seeker in. The Best Physiognomist. Author, Yanyun Yuqi. Chapter 422. Yongsheng Group, in the conference room. The first job seeker who came in was a top student from a prestigious university, a handsome male job seeker, about 30 years old, applying for the position of Deputy Director of Finance. Whether it was appearance and temperament or knowledge and conversation, the excellent performance of the first job seeker made Shen Loxi and Solitsi very satisfied. If nothing unexpected happened, the position of Deputy Director of Finance would probably fall on him. But at this time, Zhang Fenjai asked with a slight smile on his face. Zhang Yanan, the information shows that you are 31 years old this year, and the marriage history column is filled in as unmarried, so I don't know where the children who are directly related to you come from. From the admiring eyes of Shen Loxi and Solitsi, it can be seen that they are very satisfied with their conditions and their outstanding performance just now. When Zhang Yanan was happily imagining whether he would pursue the elegant Shen Loxi or the sexy and charming Solitsi after he got the job, Zhang Fenjai's sudden questioning made him look flustered. Then, he immediately stood up and scolded. Don't slander me. I haven't been married yet, how can I have a child? Really? After asking with a sneer, Zhang Fenjai directly ordered Wang Denmiai. Denmiai, call Zhuang Jian immediately and ask her to check the whereabouts of Zhang Yanan's 7-year-old daughter through the police's national network system. You can use the National Household Registration Investigation method to clearly know the gender and age of your child. Zhang Fenjai's cold order just now made Zhang Yanan's face pale as paper, and he fell directly into the chair with powerlessness. Although the color of the broken mark on the left side of the left eye's spouse palace is slightly dim, it is still clear. This means that although you and your ex-wife have not registered your marriage, you have officially held a wedding according to traditional customs. The children's palace on the lower side of the left eye has not only cracked, but also has a deep red thin line, which means that you and your ex-wife not only gave birth to a child, but also a very cute daughter. The men's and women's palace next to the children's palace on the lower side of the left eye has a hint of pink, which means that you have just experienced sex and there are other women around you. Pa! Zhang Fenjai slammed the table hard and scolded. Zhang Yanan, you obviously have women around you, but you just secretly peeked at the beauty and figure of the two leaders. It seems that you are really bold. For the financial department that can influence the fate of the group, whether it is a leadership position or an ordinary employee's career, loyalty, honesty, and ability are three indispensable conditions. Zhang Yanan's decadent performance, unable to refute, has proved that he concealed his marriage history. Zhang Fenjai's meticulous facial speculation proved that he was a ruthless, and bold scum. So, no matter how outstanding his business ability was, in the hearts of Shen Loxi and Sulitzi, he had already been sentenced to death. So, after Shen Loxi gave a judgment with a hint of disgust in her eyes, she directly announced the result of the job interview. Zhang Yanan, you are not suitable for working in our group. Now you can go to other places to continue looking for a job. After the frustrated Zhang Yanan got up and left the meeting room, Shen Loxi threw a tender and charming look at Zhang Fenjai, and immediately signaled Wang Denmei to continue to let the second job seeker in. The second job seeker who came in was a thin, ordinary-looking young man in his 30s, wearing a pair of black-framed glasses. He also applied for the position of Deputy Director of Finance. Although the appearance, temperament, education, and conversation of the young man with glasses were not as good as Zhang Yanan, his rich work experience and super professional ability also made Shen Loxi and Sulitzi very satisfied. After all, the Deputy Director of Finance does not need to have excellent conversation skills, but only needs to have very professional financial capabilities. Just like Zhang Yanan, if there is no accident, the position of Deputy Director of Finance should belong to him. But at this moment, Zhang Fenjai, with a cold light in his eyes, suddenly took out his mobile phone from his pocket and called Yang Guo's Hung. Director Yang, I found a fugitive named Du Yuehei at the recruitment site of Yongsheng Group's conference room. Please send someone to receive him. Hearing the information revealed by Zhang Fenjai on the phone, Du Yuehei's face suddenly changed and he stood up suddenly. When he turned around and planned to escape, a dark force as fast as a gust of wind directly hit his right leg, causing him to fall heavily to the ground. Regardless of the pain caused by the fall, Du Yuehei suddenly turned his head and looked at Zhang Fenjai, threatening in a gloomy tone. Boy, you'd better let me go now, otherwise, when I get out of prison, you'll be waiting for revenge all day long. Facing Du Yuehei's threat, Zhang Fenjai flashed a sneer of disdain in his eyes. Your forehead is black and your life palace is red. You are not only a fugitive, but also a murderer with deep sins. The blessing palace is dim, the longevity palace is closed, and the wealth has disappeared. This means that the result of being caught this time is that the death penalty should be your final destination. Moreover, all criminals who died under the punishment of national laws, their souls fell directly into the 18 levels of hell in the underworld, without even a second to stay. The more sinful a person is, the more he believes in the existence of ghosts and gods. So, after hearing Zhang Fenjai point out the sins he had committed and his final fate, Du Yuehei's fierce look was replaced by fear, and the spirit of wanting to escape desperately was completely broken and he sat there stupidly. Wang Denmei quickly used her mobile phone to notify the security guards of Xintang building and asked them to take Du Yuehei out of the fire escape of the conference room. At Shen Loxi's signal, she continued to let the third job seeker in for an interview. The third job seeker was a petite, smartly dressed girl about 27 or 28 years old with a childlike face and huge breasts. The position she applied for was still the Deputy Director of Finance. Whether it was academic qualifications and knowledge or conversation and ability, as well as gender advantages, they all made Shenloxi and Sulitsi very satisfied. But considering the changes in the previous two job seekers, their eyes were cast on Zhang Fengjai at the same time. When they saw Zhang Fengjai frowning slightly, Shenloxi and Sulitsi looked at each other and found the helplessness in each other's eyes. Because they thought that this outstanding job applicant must have some shameful secrets, they sentenced her application to death in their hearts. This made the girl, who was originally full of confidence, have a hint of doubt in her eyes. You are listening to Novels at Bless Up channel. Wish you happiness and luck. Please subscribe to receive new novels. How do you feel about this novel? Please like and leave a comment. The Best Physiognomist. Author, Yanyun Yuqi. Chapter 423. Yongsheng Group, in the conference room. Shenloxi and Sulitsi's disappointed expressions, as well as the puzzled look in the eyes of the girl in front of him, let Zhang Fengjai know that they misunderstood his frowning reaction just now. But he did not explain much, but asked the job seeker directly. Zhao Shennan, I wonder what you think about love and marriage. Love is a fairy tale, and marriage is a siege. Although he didn't know what the examiner's question had to do with the test of the Deputy Director of Finance, as a qualified job seeker, Zhao Shennan still answered truthfully. Because the stories in fairy tales are all lies, and the siege is more like a shackle on a successful person, so I, Zhao Shennan, will neither touch love nor enter the grave of the siege in my life. Zhao Shennan's alternative answer to love and marriage did not surprise Zhang Fengjai, but he still asked with a frown. Zhao Shennan, if one day in the future, you fall hopelessly in love with a man, and are willing to give everything for this man, even if you are imprisoned, will you regret it for the rest of your life? No. After thinking for less than 3 seconds, Zhao Shennan immediately answered with a firm tone. Life is short, and there are many things to do. Sometimes love is important, but career success will make you feel that your life is worthwhile. The frowned brows quickly relaxed, and Zhang Fengjai nodded to Shenloxi. Loxi, she is the most suitable candidate for the Deputy Director of Finance. Originally, Zhao Shennan's academic qualifications and business capabilities have already made Shenloxi very satisfied. Now even Zhang Fengjai, who is responsible for the face assessment, nodded in agreement, so there is no need for too much testing. So, Shenloxi immediately stood up and said to Zhao Shennan. Zhao Shennan, congratulations, you have successfully passed the interview and can officially start work tomorrow. Thank you, boss. Zhao Shennan's reaction to the success of the application was very calm. She first bowed to Shenloxi and Suzayazi to thank them, and then turned to Zhang Fengjai and asked. Examiner, I wonder how you view love and marriage. Love is care, and marriage is tolerance. Love is waiting, and marriage is belonging. Love is a sailboat, and marriage is a harbor. As if he had anticipated Zhao Shennan's question, Zhang Fengjai looked up at Shenloxi and Sulitsi, and said with a hint of warmth in his eyes. As long as there is someone I care about and someone worth waiting for, even if we are thousands of miles apart and the road is full of thorns, I will overcome all obstacles and ride the wind and waves to stay with the person I care about and love forever. When Sulitsi and Shenloxi heard Zhang Fengjai's views on love and marriage, they suddenly felt sweet in their hearts, while Zhao Shennan showed a thoughtful look in her eyes. But the time for thinking was very short, only 3 seconds. She frowned slightly and turned to leave the meeting room. Yezi, why do you ask Zhao Shennan about the topic of love and marriage? After Zhao Shennan left the meeting room, Shenloxi asked in confusion while Wang Denmi I went to invite the fourth job seeker. In response, Zhang Fengjai just smiled and shook his head without saying much. In fact, The reason why he asked about the topic of love and marriage was mainly because Zhao Shennan's male and female palace, husband and wife palace and children palace were in a strange state of opening and closing from time to time, which showed that she had an instinctive disgust and rejection of men. Of course, if there were only problems with the view of love and marriage, he would not bother to care and ask. Mainly because there was a pink and red mark in Zhao Shennan's fate palace, which meant that she would have a disaster in the near future, and this disaster was related to love and marriage. Therefore, considering Zhao Shennan's own safety and whether the disaster would affect the safety of the group, he had just had a conversation, and the result made him very satisfied. However, since Zhao Shennan's fate involved a secret, the experience of the third grandfather made him dare not easily reveal it. The fourth and fifth job seekers also applied for the position of Deputy Director of Finance. Although their performances were equally wonderful, they could only be eliminated with great regret when Zhao Shennan was already in his heart. The sixth job seeker was a top beauty with a height of more than 1.75 meters, a pair of slender legs, and a sexy and enchanting appearance. She applied for the position of Deputy Director of the Sales Department. Whether it was speech and behavior or business ability, the job seeker's expression was perfect. But there was one thing that made Shen Loxi and Sulitzi feel a little uncomfortable, or rather, they were more worried about whether the other party's overly bold clothing and seductive eyes would affect Zhang Fengjai, who had average self-control. After all, the deputy director would only be stationed at the sales center when the new property officially started selling, and most of the rest of the time he would stay at the head office. After looking at each other, Shen Loxi and Sulitzi looked at Zhang Fengjai at the same time, one to observe his reaction, and the other to ask for his opinion. The clear eyes without any ripples showed that he was not affected by the other party's sexy dress at all. The silence without finding any opinions showed that there was no problem with the other party's appearance and experience. Finally, after a brief exchange of eyes, Shen Loxi gave the other party a result to go back and wait for notification. The next three job seekers, although they had excellent academic qualifications and knowledge, were slightly inferior in their speech, manners, and adaptability, and were eventually rejected by Shen Loxi and Sulitzi at the same time. When the 10th job seeker entered the meeting room, Zhang Fengjai, who was originally leaning on the soft chair, suddenly sat up straight, and his relaxed look immediately became serious. The 10th job seeker was a girl about 24 or 25 years old, with ordinary looks, ordinary figure, ordinary clothes, and wearing a pair of black framed glasses that affected her temperament. Without asking too many questions, the girl named Guan Huiyu in front of them had already been sentenced to death in the hearts of Shen Loxi and Sulitzi. So, after asking a few simple questions, they ended the interview and signaled Guan Huiyu to leave the meeting room. But at this time, Zhang Fengjai suddenly asked, "Guan Huiyu, my next question does not have any discrimination or humiliation in it. I hope you don't have any misunderstanding. Guan Huiyu, you should know that as the leading department of real estate, the sales department has very high requirements for appearance, knowledge, dress, and speech and behavior. So, why did you apply for the position of deputy director of the sales department? How did you pass the initial and re-examination?" The Best Physiognomist. Author, Yan Yun Yuqi. Chapter 424. Yongsheng Group, in the conference room. Since Shen Loxi won the trust of the group's management with her excellent business acumen, she proposed a new employment concept. That means how much money you give and how much work you do. The more you do, the more money you get. It is precisely because of her unique and novel employment concept that Yongsheng Group has become the star enterprise with the highest salary, the most potential and competitiveness in Ningji City in a short period of time. Now, with Shen Loxi in full control of the group, she has carried forward her employment philosophy. For example, the salary and bonus of the sales department are not only increased by 5% on the original basis, but the proportion of sales commission is also divided into specific levels. If she can reach the highest level of sales, she has said, Her annual salary plus bonuses will definitely exceed tens of millions, which will result in a competition ratio of 1 to 100 for the sales position. Therefore, Zhang Fengjie was very interested in the process by which Guan Huiyu, who was ordinary in all aspects, was able to stand out from more than 500 job applicants. In other words, he wanted to verify whether his calculations on physiognomy were correct. Without Zhang Fengjie's active inquiry, Shen Loxi and Sulitzi would not have realized this key issue, so they looked at Guan Huiyu with doubts in their eyes. I don't know either. Being stared at by 4 people in the conference room at the same time, Guan Huiyu suddenly became nervous and stammered to explain. I only answered half of the questions during the interview, and only answered 2 questions during the re-examination. I had already given up on the chance to apply for a job, but when I got home I received a call to continue the interview. Guan Huiyu's answer made Shen Loxi couldn't help but frown and look at Wang Denmei. Because Wang Denmei was the person in charge of the written examination and re-examination, but facing Shen Loxi's questioning gaze, she was confused about the situation, and didn't understand how she could make such a common-sense mistake. In response to Shen Loxi's questioning, Zhang Fengjie seemed very excited and continued to ask. Guan Huiyu, your grades were very poor when you were in school, but you performed exceptionally well in every key exam, and then achieved good grades that even you couldn't believe. Zhang Fengjie's revealing question made Guan Huiyu nod her head in embarrassment. This was what she felt particularly puzzled about. Guan Huiyu, during college, did your school's most outstanding schoolgirl reject the advances of all girls, then pursue you crazily, and finally achieve a romantic love between Cinderella and Prince Charming? Zhang Fengjie's straightforward question made Guan Huiyu lower her head in shame, but a sweet and proud feeling emerged in her heart. Because among the girls who were pursuing the schoolgirl, there was no shortage of top goddesses and fair girls, but the schoolgirl chose her beyond everyone's expectations, and gave up her job in the Magic City for her own sake, and willingly stayed in Ningji City. Loxi, choose her for the position of Deputy Director of the Sales Department. Silence equals acquiescence. Guan Huiyu's ordinary counterattack experience completely confirmed his physiognomy observation. At the same time, Zhang Fengjie suggested to Shen Loxi with a smile. All right. After nodding in agreement with Zhang Fengjie's suggestion, Shen Loxi signaled Guan Huiyu to leave the conference room, then turned around and asked with a solemn expression. Yi Zi, give me a reason. For those who are favored by fate. After retracting his gaze that paid attention to Guan Huiyu's departure, Zhang Fengjie sighed with an envious look in his eyes and asked Shen Loxi. Logo 11, do you believe that Guan Huiyu can complete the highest sales level you set within half a year, and then receive more than 8-digit sales rewards? Although he wanted to shake his head vigorously to express doubt, but considering Zhang Fengjie's fortune-telling ability, Shen Loxi finally chose to remain silent and did not pursue further questions. Then, she signaled Wang Denmei to invite the next job seeker. Next, there were more than a dozen candidates for the positions of Deputy Minister of Competition Rules and Deputy Minister of Development. Their appearance and experience were not big problems. Zhang Fengjie did not express his opinions too much and completely obeyed Shen Loxi and Sulitzi. Opinions. It was not until the 43rd job seeker appeared that Zhang Fengjie suddenly lost his laziness, and a look of surprise appeared in his eyes. At the same time, Shen Loxi and Sulitzi suddenly became nervous because of the appearance of job applicant number 43, and there was a look of fear in their eyes. Because job seeker number 43 is not only a top student studying abroad, but also a stunning beauty whose appearance and figure are not inferior to theirs. Next, whether it was professional ability or opinions on the job, the performance of job seeker number 43 could be described as impeccable, which also put Shen Loxi and Sulitzi into a complete dilemma. The Deputy Director of the Human Resources Department is the department that has the most contact with company leaders and offices. With the excellence of job applicant number 43, not to mention attracting Zhang Fengjie's interest, I am afraid it will also attract men with extremely strong male hormones. Employees are unmotivated to work. Just when Shenloxi and Sulitsi didn't know how to decide whether to stay or go for applicant number 43, Zhang Fengjai asked with doubts in his eyes. Feng Danya, with your knowledge, experience, ability, education, and appearance, you are fully qualified for the position of Director of the Human Resources Department of a Fortune 500 company. Why would you choose a small real estate company with an annual profit of less than $1 billion? Examiner, why did you rank appearance last among the questions you just asked? Not only did she not answer Zhang Fengjai's question immediately, Feng Danya asked with curiosity in her eyes. Since I am the examiner, I must first consider the interests and needs of the group. Facing Feng Danya's rhetorical question, Zhang Fengjai thought for a while and then gave his own explanation. The position of Deputy Minister of Human Resources tests more of a person's vision, knowledge, and experience, so it is normal for me to rank your education and appearance last. After a slight pause, Zhang Fengjai's tone suddenly changed and he continued with an indifferent expression. Besides, in my opinion, your appearance can only barely add a few extra points to your interview score. Examiner, are you trying to use this method to attract my attention, or do you want to pursue me? Facing Zhang Fengjai's explanation, a sneer of contempt flashed in Feng Danya's eyes. Finally, he couldn't help teasing and counter-attacking. Miss Feng, I'm afraid you are overthinking. Zhang Fengjai, who also had a disdainful sneer in his eyes, countered. I am a relatively traditional person and have no interest in women who are too open-minded. The Best Physiognomist. Author, Yanyun Yuqi. Chapter 425. Yongsheng Group, in the conference room. Zhang Fengjai's counter-attack with a hint of humiliation made Feng Danya's eyes flash with anger, and she counter-attacked more sharply. This examiner, with your ordinary appearance that will be forgotten in a blink of an eye, and your cheap clothes that cost no more than 200 yuan, even if you are interested in an open-minded woman like me, I am afraid I will not really look at you. In fact, you are not even as good as the toad who wants to eat swan meat. Being able to accept the decision of Yihuang and Nuying to share a husband is enough to prove how much Sulitsi and Shenloxi love Zhang Fengjai. Therefore, when they heard Feng Danya's naked humiliation and sarcasm, their faces suddenly darkened. Thank you Miss Feng for your contempt, I am really honored. After shaking his head to indicate that Sulitsi and Shenloxi did not need to be too angry, Zhang Fengjai continued to fight back with a smile. Because I have mysophobia, I hate dirt and I am even more afraid of illness. Dirty and sick are the most unacceptable insults to Feng Danya, who accepts Western open-minded ideas and is influenced by Eastern traditions. So, Feng Danya stood up suddenly and warned with a cold face. Examiner, you'd better apologize to me immediately, otherwise, I will let the lawyer come to talk to you in person. Pa! Slamming the table hard, Zhang Fengjai also stood up and warned. Feng Danya, you'd better get out of the meeting room immediately, otherwise, I will call the police to arrest you immediately, and the crime of arrest is commercial espionage. After hearing the commercial espionage mentioned in Zhang Fengjai's warning, Feng Danya's eyes flashed with a trace of fear, and immediately calmed down and fought back strongly. In addition to the humiliation of my personality, you now have another charge of slander. Really? Faced with Feng Danya's fearless and tough counterattack, Zhang Fengjai sneered and asked back, looked up and down, and then reminded with a smile. Feng Danya, it seems that you are just a pitiful plaything and chess piece in Chen Yunhan's eyes, otherwise, how could he not warn you in advance that the bodyguard of Shenloxi, chairman of Yongsheng Group, is someone you absolutely cannot provoke? Hearing Zhang Fengjai's reminder mentioning Chen Yunhan, Feng Danya, who could no longer remain calm, took a few steps back with a pale face, and then showed an unbelievable look in his eyes. You are indeed a traitor sent by Chen Yunhan. Shenloxi threw the pen on the table and stood up and scolded. An encounter in the second semester of her senior year in high school led her to meet Chen Yunhan, the richest man in Ningji City. One coveted the other's power and wealth, and the other was obsessed with the other's youth and beauty. In the end, after an in-depth exchange, they made a mutually beneficial and win-win deal. That is, Chen Yunhan funded her to study abroad, and she dedicated her 10 years of youth to accompany him. Since the places of their dates were all abroad, their confidentiality work was very secretive. Even Chen Yunhan's biological son Chen Yuanqiang, who had just passed away, did not know about their relationship. If Chen Yunhan had not wanted to use commercial espionage to bring down Yongsheng Group and there was no suitable candidate for a while, she would not have returned to her homeland, which she hated in her heart, and would not have applied for a job at an unknown real estate company. So, Feng Danya still asked in disbelief. How did you know? Feng Danya, go ask Chen Yunhan himself, he will solve your inner doubts. Zhang Fengjai made up a random excuse to fool around, and winked at Wang Denmei. Afterwards, Wang Denmei stood up and took Feng Danya out of the meeting room. No new job seekers were allowed to come in for the time being. Shen Loxi walked behind Zhang Fengjai, rubbing his shoulders and legs for him, and thanked him provocatively. Yizi, thank you so much, thanks to you for discovering Feng Danya's identity and conspiracy in advance, otherwise, Sister Litsi and I would definitely suffer a great loss in the future. Otherwise, do what Litsi said tonight. Although he wanted to nod and agree immediately, but when he saw Sulitsi's half-smile, he immediately pretended not to hear it, took out his mobile phone to check the time, and then reminded her. Loxi, it's already 3:30 in the afternoon. Let's hurry up and have the interview. Don't delay going home after get off work. Coward. After complaining with dissatisfaction, Shen Loxi returned to her chair and signaled Wang Denmei to invite the next job applicant in. Yu Heiran leaned on the soft chair and recalled the process of questioning Feng Danya just now. In fact, Feng Danya's identity as a spy and her relationship with Chen Yunhan were not seen through physiognomy at all. Because Feng Danya's face showed that she was casual in relationships with men and women and distant from her parents, and her personality was strong. The real reason for his suspicion was the question he asked Feng Danya at the beginning. That is, she obviously had the ability to earn millions of annual salary, but why did she choose a job with an annual salary of only hundreds of thousands? And Feng Danya's subsequent series of tough counterattacks and warnings, combined with the position she applied for, gradually made him see a little clue. For a fast-growing company, what is the most important thing? I'm afraid the first thought that comes to everyone's mind is talent. The department that can decide the introduction of most talents is the Human Resources Department. Although Feng Danya applied for the position of Deputy Minister, with her ability and skills, it will not take long for her to completely undermine the power of the minister, thereby making a conspiracy to attract mediocre talents and reject talents. But why did Feng Danya, who had no grudges against Shen Loxi, do this? Who will benefit from it afterwards? Considering that in the past 3 years, under the leadership of Shen Loxi, Yongsheng Group has seriously affected the leading position of Zhulang Group. Then, the ultimate beneficiary of the decline of Yongsheng Group must be Chen Yunhan. Therefore, he used humiliation and insults to anger Feng Danya step by step, and finally confirmed the relationship and conspiracy between her and Chen Yunda. At the same time, when Feng Danya admitted that she was in a lover relationship with Chen Yunhan, her physiognomy ability, which had not progressed for a long time, suddenly made a leap forward, which made Zhang Fengjai vaguely feel that the improvement of physiognomy ability might be related to meticulous thinking and strong logical ability. Since most of his mind was on recollection and thinking, he only took a rough look at the faces of the next few dozen job seekers. He basically wouldn't comment on anyone who wasn't too corrupt or a criminal. However, when the 74th job seeker who applied for the position of Deputy Director of the Engineering Department entered the meeting room, Zhang Fengjai immediately became alert, and a frightening cold light flashed in his eyes. You are listening to Novels at Bless Up channel. Wish you happiness and luck. Please subscribe to receive new novels. How do you feel about this novel? Please like and leave a comment. The Best Physiognomist. Author, Yanyun Yuchi. Chapter 426. Yongsheng Group, in the conference room. The 74th job seeker is a foreigner from the Bulletin Luo Empire. His name is Alvis. Although he is not very handsome, he is very strong. This is absolutely fatal to some women with strong needs. Not only is his professional knowledge and ability excellent, but he is also very proficient in the ways of the Chinese world. At the same time, his strong physical fitness, fierce physique, and momentum are more suitable for the development and construction of the project. Therefore, Shen Loxi, who was very satisfied, suddenly had a trance consciousness, so she did not think of asking Zhang Fengjai for his opinion, and directly nodded to approve Alvis's application. However, just when Shen Loxi was about to signal Wang Denmei to take Alvis out of the conference room, Zhang Fengjai suddenly stood up and said gently, "Chairman, General Manager, as the director of the project department, I have some things to pay attention to. I want to talk to Mr. Alvis, the incoming deputy director, in advance. I hope the two leaders can approve it." Official title, self-proclaimed position, pleading tone. Zhang Fengjai's words and actions just now made Shen Loxi and Sulitzi immediately realize that there was something wrong with Alvis in front of them, so Shen Loxi pretended to be calm and nodded in agreement. "Okay, Minister Zhang will take Mr. Alvis to the sandbox room to talk now. Mr. Alvis, please follow me." Zhang Fengjai had a gentle smile on his face and politely extended his hand to signal. "Minister Zhang is polite, please go first." Alvis, who is well versed in the ways of the world, immediately bowed slightly and humbly signaled. In response, Zhang Fengjai left the meeting room first without too much courtesy, and then went straight to the sandbox room at the end of the corridor. "Sister Litzi, did I make Yezi angry just now?" Thinking that she had forgotten to ask Zhang Fengjai's opinion just now, and directly approved Alvis's application, Shen Loxi couldn't help but ask worriedly. "It's okay, Yezi is not such a stingy person, so don't worry." After smiling and comforting, Sulitzi glanced at the remaining information on the desk, and then reminded Shen Loxi. "Loxi, the remaining leadership positions are just technical positions without much power. We don't need to consider the applicant's temperament and experience too much. Why don't we hurry up and interview them? In this way, you will also have time to invite Yezi to a candlelight dinner alone to see if he is angry with you just now." "Okay." Shen Loxi took out her mobile phone and looked at the time, and nodded in agreement. After pushing open the wooden door of the sand table room, Zhang Fengjai smiled and stretched out his hand to signal. "Mr. Alves, please." "Thank you." After nodding politely, Alves took the lead in entering the sand table room. When the door closed, Zhang Fengjai, with his right fist clenched, quickly mobilized the physical strength of the Great Perfection Realm and directly hit the Soul Gate on Alves' back. If the Soul Gate was hit, even if Alves was a master of the Foundation Establishment Realm, the result would be death. However, when Alves' body was shattered by the fist like a bubble, Zhang Fengjai's face changed slightly and he dodged immediately. And just as he dodged, a claw with sharp nails directly scratched the place where he had just stood. "Who are you? Why did you sneak attack me?" Along with the scratch of the sharp nails, an ugly monster with a body nearly 3 meters tall, covered with dense gray hair, and a human body and a wolf head appeared in the sandbox room. Then, the ugly monster spoke human words and shouted at Zhang Fengjai. Looking at the werewolf who seemed more ferocious and stronger than in the TV series, Zhang Fengjai mobilized the gray energy in his danshan to condense a sharp sword, and shouted indifferently. "Who are you? What is your purpose of entering Yongsheng Group?" Without answering Zhang Fengjai's question, the werewolf leaned forward, supported his hands on the ground, stared at him with his green eyes, and then looked for the flaws in his body so that he could launch a fatal blow. Since the description of the werewolf level in the TV series is relatively vague, unlike vampires, there is a very clear realm. At the same time, the strength of the werewolf is more reflected in the physical body and speed, which is difficult to judge by the naked eye and mind. Therefore, Zhang Fengjai did not observe and wait too much, and directly waved the sword in his hand to perform a move of stars and dots to judge the true strength of the werewolf in front of him. The sword technique instantly shot out dozens of invisible sword chi, stabbing at the werewolf like a storm. After a fierce cold light flashed in the green wolf eyes, the werewolf suddenly squatted up, and then waved his broad and strong claws to quickly resist dozens of invisible sword chi. Lang lang. Accompanied by the crisp sound of sharp weapons hitting, although most of the invisible sword chi were blocked by the claws, there were still 7 invisible sword chi that broke through the claws' defense and shot at the werewolf's body. Bang, bang. Puff, puff. Finally, the 5 sword energies were deflected by the werewolf's strong body defense, and 2 sword energies directly pierced the werewolf's abdomen. Although the werewolf also had a strong recovery ability, which allowed the 2 wounds on the abdomen to recover quickly, the basic sword technique just performed was just a tentative attack, and not even 1/10 of its own strength was used. So, after basically understanding the true strength of the werewolf in front of him and the characteristics of his defense, Zhang Fengjai did not continue to test. He directly mobilized 1/3 of the gray energy in his dantian and injected it into the sharp sword. With a sword technique like autumn wind sweeping fallen leaves, he slashed at the soft abdomen of the werewolf. Feeling the deadly attack power contained in the invisible sword energy this time, the werewolf instinctively wanted to dodge after a look of fear flashed in his eyes. But the huge body and the narrow space of the sandbox room limited its speed advantage. In the end, the sharp invisible sword energy swept across the abdomen like a gust of wind, bringing a series of hot blood, and the werewolf was almost cut in half. The sharp claws immediately pressed the wound to prevent fainting caused by excessive bleeding. Then, he immediately mobilized the dark energy and blood energy in his heart, and after quickly recovering the damage caused by the wound, the werewolf suddenly turned around and rushed to the door to escape. Because the opponent was only a simple 2-stroke sword technique, he could easily injure himself, which was enough to show that he not only encountered a mysterious oriental monk, but also a very powerful monk. However, just as the werewolf turned around and prepared to run away, he suddenly felt a pain in his heart. Then he looked down and saw the thin boy with a sneer of disdain on his face, and slowly withdrew his right hand that was pressing on his chest. The Best Physiognomist. Author, Yanyun Yuqi. Chapter 427. Yongshen Group, in the Sand Table Room. Mysterious and powerful Eastern monk, what did you just do to me? As the pain in his heart continued to intensify, a special power that could restrain the burst of dark energy and blood energy made him unable to continue to control the werewolf's transformation, and gradually returned to his original appearance. At the same time, the loss of a large amount of dark energy and bloodline energy-assisted healing ability also slowed down the recovery of the waist wound. Alves, who reached out to cover his increasingly painful heart and return to his original appearance, asked with a look of horror in his eyes. A Taoist tool that can seal the source of heart energy, a silver needle that can take your life at any time. Zhang Fengjai replied calmly. In other words, your life and death now are completely under my control. Mysterious and powerful Eastern monk, you and I are strangers to each other, and we don't have any grudges against each other. Why do you want to hurt me with a sneak attack? The Taoist weapon that seals dark energy and bloodline energy, the silver needle that determines your life and death at any time. After hearing Zhang Fengjai's explanation, or rather warning, the frightened look in Alves' eyes was instantly replaced by fear, and he asked with a hint of annoyance in his tone. Mr. Alves, although we are strangers to each other, there is not no hatred between us. After dispersing the sharp sword condensed with grey energy, Zhang Fengjai placed his hands behind his back and retorted with an indifferent expression. Because Shen Loxi, the chairman of Yongshen Group, that is, the girl who was responsible for interviewing you just now, is my Zhangfenjai's woman, so when you stepped into the conference room with ulterior motives, a bond was already formed between you and me. Undying hatred. When he heard that the reason why the thin young man in front of him attacked and severely injured himself was because he suspected that he wanted to hurt the beautiful girl who could decide his job, Alves suddenly felt extremely depressed and aggrieved and offended. Mysterious and powerful Eastern monk, it seems that you have really misunderstood me. I applied for the position of Deputy Director of the Engineering Department of Yongsheng Group because I really need this job to support myself now. I have no regard for that beautiful lady. Any unreasonable thoughts? Mr. Alves, as a werewolf from a foreign race in the West, a powerful man with supernatural abilities, you would still value an ordinary job with an annual salary of less than 100,000. Regarding Alves's defense, Zhang Fenjai obviously did not believe it. Questioned with a sneer. Facing Zhang Fenjai's question, Alves explained in a low tone after a look of loneliness and helplessness flashed in his eyes. Mysterious and powerful Eastern monk, I am an ordinary grey wolf from the Alpha Wolf pack of the Unfallen Empire. Because I offended a powerful green wolf in the group, I had no choice but to choose to betray the group, and then risk sneaking into the group where I dare not the mysterious China that is easily accessible. Because I left the tribe in a hurry, not only did I not take away the wealth I had accumulated over the years, but I also left some documents proving my identity in the wolf den. Therefore, I was penniless and could only survive by working. Go down. Although it could be judged from Alves' tone that what he just said was not a lie, Zhang Fenjai still couldn't help but frowned and asked. Mr. Alves, even if you don't transform, your strength is by no means comparable to that of ordinary people, so why don't you work as a bodyguard for some top rich people, or go to the underground black market to box? You know, whether it's a rich man's personal bodyguard or a black market boxing with a gambling nature, the income is far more than the job you are applying for now. When hearing Zhang Fenjai's question, Alves couldn't help but shook his head and explained with a wry smile. Mysterious and powerful Eastern monks, in the eyes of us Western aliens, your Eastern China represents mystery, strength, and strictness. Anyone who dares to violate your Chinese rules will ultimately be unable to escape the judgment of death. So, I don't dare to contact you Chinese rich people at all, and I'm even more afraid to go boxing in the underground black market, because I'm worried that if a powerful monk like you finds out, I will be punished by being skinned and cramped. Alves' explanation for exposing his family scandal not only failed to resolve Zhang Fenjai's inner doubts, but made him feel even more puzzled. If Western aliens are really like what Alves just described, then why do Western vampires dare to appear blatantly on the land of China, ignore Chinese laws and the rules set by Taoism, and kill ordinary people at will? When he heard Zhang Fenjai's puzzled question, Alves slowly sat on the ground so that he could save energy for thinking. The time for thinking was not very long, only about 3 minutes. With a worried look in his eyes, Alves gave his own judgment and guess. As the two most powerful ethnic groups in the West, the relationship between the Blood tribe and the Wolf tribe is very complicated. When facing the common enemy the Church, they are close allies who can trust each other's back. When there is no common enemy threat, they have an undying relationship and want to directly destroy each other's ethnic group. As for the reasons for this complicated relationship, Alves is not qualified to understand it due to his humble identity and status. Although they are both the two largest ethnic groups in the West, there is a huge gap in strength between the Blood tribe and the Wolf tribe. The first obvious difference is in lifespan. As long as one becomes a vampire through the means of the first embrace, as long as there is enough blood and moonlight, even the lowest level Baron vampire will have an immortal lifespan. But werewolves are different. Only purple wolves that have been promoted to the level of vampire princes can have a long lifespan. Blood wolves below the purple wolf realm have a lifespan of 10,000 years, and white wolves below the blood wolf have a lifespan of 1,000 years. Blue wolves, grey wolves, black wolves, and first wolves below the white wolf only live a few decades longer than ordinary humans, which has caused a huge gap in the number of the two tribes. The second obvious gap is reflected in the realm breakthrough. The Blood Clan can not only improve their cultivation by absorbing the power of moonlight, but also improve their strength by sucking the pure yang and pure yin power from the blood of living creatures. But the Wolf Clan can only improve their cultivation and strength by absorbing the power of moonlight, which has caused a huge gap in the number of top powerhouses of the two races. The third obvious gap is in strength. As a vampire who can transform into a bat, in addition to possessing dark magic and speed attack methods, he also has the advantage of flying in the air. The wolf tribe, which lacks long-range attack methods, can only become a passive target if it is in an open battlefield. If it were not for the fact that the wolf tribe has a relatively strong physical defense and the deadly poison contained in the wolf claws that can kill vampires, I am afraid that the wolf tribe would have been exterminated by vampires long ago. The Best Physiognomist. Author, Yanyun Yuqi. Chapter 428. Yongsheng Group, in the Sandbox Room. The century war between the Eastern monks and monsters and the Western Church and alien races several decades ago, although they shook hands and made peace in the form of signing a contract, it was actually the defeat of the Western Church and alien races. In that century war that lasted for several years, the Wolf tribe not only lost nearly 80% of its elite members, but also the only two remaining Purple Wolf ancestors and 5 Blood Wolf masters were killed by the Eastern monks. However, the Blood Clan relied on the means of quickly recovering strength by sucking blood and the advantage of flying by transforming into bats. Not only did they successfully save more than half of the elite members, but the 3 princes and 7 dukes who went to the battle also fled back to the west with heavy injuries. It was precisely because of the heavy losses in that war and the huge gap in strength between them and the Blood Clan that was difficult to make up. The Wolf Clan began to live in seclusion, hoping to avoid the pursuit of the Blood Clan and the Church and gain precious space and time to recuperate. It is precisely because of the secluded life with little contact with the outside world that the Wolf Clan still retains a sense of awe for the Eastern monks and monsters, and dares not easily set foot on the Eastern continent. Mysterious Eastern strongman, if I am not mistaken, after decades of recuperation, the Blood Clan has not only fully restored its peak strength, but also the 3 princes and 7 dukes who were severely injured have probably completely recovered. After introducing the grievances between the Blood Clan and the Wolf Clan in religious rituals, as well as the current situation of the 2 major clans, Alvis gave the reason why the Blood Clan dared to set foot on the land of China. Otherwise, with the cautious style of vampires, they would never dare to risk appearing on the mysterious land of China. After all, most of the high-level vampires in the Blood Clan have witnessed the power of your Eastern monks with their own eyes. After hearing Alvis's narration and speculation, Zhang Fengjai, whose doubts were barely resolved, nodded and then took out a talisman from his sleeve. Afterwards, he replaced the silver needle in Alvis' heart with the evil-breaking talisman, and warned him with a serious look. Alvis, the yellow paper that replaced the silver needle just now is a talisman I drew myself. Although it cannot seal the dark energy and blood energy in your heart, it can instantly destroy your heart and destroy your vitality under my control. But, after a slight pause, the serious look was replaced by gentleness, and Zhang Fengjai promised with a smile on his face. However, as long as your performance can satisfy me, I will not only take out the talisman in your heart, but also arrange for you to be a personal bodyguard for a top rich man. If there is a chance in the future, I will personally help you advance to the realm of Grey Wolf, Blue Wolf, White Wolf, and Blood Wolf, and even impact the immortal Purple Wolf. Really? After losing the silver needle that bound the dark energy and blood energy, Alvis, who regained the power of a werewolf, stood up suddenly, with an unbelievable look in his eyes. Absolutely true. While nodding to confirm, Zhang Fengjai further explained. That top rich man is my best brother. For my sake, he will at least give you a monthly salary of 1 million. Your wolf tribe's promotion mainly depends on the power of moonlight, and I have a way to gather a lot of moonlight power, so my promise just now is definitely not a joke. I, Alvis, swear in the name of the ancestor Muta to be loyal to this mysterious Oriental strongman forever." After receiving further explanation and assurance from Zhang Fengjai, he swore with a look of surprise in his eyes. "My last name is Zhang, and my first name is Fengjai. From now on, you can call me by my name directly, or you can call me Mr. Zhang. If there are only two people, Alvis's name doesn't matter. If he continues to call himself a mysterious Oriental strongman in front of outsiders, it will not only look weird, but also easily attract other people's strange eyes." So, before leaving the sandbox room, Zhang Fengjai introduced himself and gave instructions. "Yes, Mr. Zhang. The relationship between them is that of superiors and subordinates, so it is definitely inappropriate to call each other by their names, so Alvis chose a more formal title." Afterwards, Zhang Fengjai took Alvis back to the conference room. At this time, Shen Loxi and Sulitzi were interviewing for the position of Deputy Director of the Design Department. At this moment, seeing Alvis standing respectfully behind Zhang Fengjai, the two of them suddenly showed puzzled expressions in their eyes. After signaling Shen Loxi and Sulitzi to continue the interview, Zhang Fengjai sat back in his chair, and Alvis stood respectfully behind him. Afterwards, he casually glanced at the job seeker who was being interviewed, stood up suddenly with a slightly stunned expression, and asked with a hint of surprise in his tone, "Brother Jinghua?" The job seeker, who heard someone calling his name, turned his head to observe the thin boy and asked with a tone of uncertainty, "The little fairy of the Zhang family?" "That's right, Brother Jinghua, I am Zhang Fengjai, the little fairy of the Zhang family." Zhang Fengjai immediately nodded happily and admitted, "Little god, why are you here?" Compared to Zhang Fengjai's joy, the young man called Jinghua asked with a slightly cold look. "I'm working here," Zhang Fengjai explained happily without paying any attention to Jinghua's cold look. "Ordinary employee, or middle-level leader?" Jinghua frowned slightly and asked nervously. Facing Jinghua's nervous questioning, Zhang Fengjai was about to reveal his identity as a bodyguard, but Shen Loxi suddenly took the initiative to introduce himself. "Zhang Jinghua, Zhang Fengjai is the Deputy General Manager of our Yongsheng Group, in charge of the Design Department, Project Department, Development Department, and Network Information Department." At the same time, in view of Zhang Fengjai's outstanding expression, the group intends to give him 5% of the original shares. Compared with Zhang Fengjai's happiness and enthusiasm, Zhang Jinghua's overly indifferent and cold attitude made Shen Loxi feel very puzzled, and a sense of discomfort emerged in her heart. When Zhang Jinghua nervously asked about Zhang Fengjai's position in the group, and Sulitzi quietly pointed to the other party's resume, she vaguely guessed the reason why the other party treated Zhang Fengjai coldly, which also made her uncomfortable feeling instantly replaced by anger. Because Zhang Fengjai was not only her beloved man, but also the savior of the Shen family and Yongsheng Group, Shen Loxi, who didn't want to see Zhang Fengjai lose face in front of acquaintances, made up a position for him without authorization. Hearing Shen Loxi's introduction of Zhang Fengjai, Zhang Jinghua's face suddenly became ugly, and his hands on his thighs clenched tightly. You are listening to Novels at Bless Up channel. Wish you happiness and luck. Please subscribe to receive new novels. How do you feel about this novel? Please like and leave a comment. The Best Physiognomist. Author, Yan Yun Yuqi. Chapter 429. Yongsheng Group, in the conference room. Although she knew that Shen Loxi had just taken the initiative to make up a new identity for herself because she didn't want to embarrass herself in front of Zhang Jinghua, but without understanding the specific situation, her good intentions would actually lead to bad things. Therefore, after giving Shen Loxi a dissatisfied look, Zhang Fengjai was about to confess his bodyguard job to Zhang Jinghua, but Zhang Jinghua suddenly stood up, then turned around and left the conference room with a livid face. His reckless and rude behavior not only made Shen Loxi and Sulitzi's expressions instantly darken, but it also meant that he had voluntarily given up the interview for the position of Deputy Minister of the Competition Planning Department. Well, he immediately raised his arms and wanted to speak to save the other party, but for a moment he didn't know what to say. In the end, Zhang Fengjai could only sigh and put down his arms. Yezi, did I do something wrong just now? Dissatisfied eyes and helpless sighs. Zhang Fengjai looked slightly helpless at this moment, which made Shen Loxi suddenly feel nervous and asked. No. After shaking his head, Zhang Fengjai sat back in his chair and asked with a wry smile. Loxi, Sister Litsi, can you tell the true meaning of the word Jinghua, or the specific origin? They lowered their heads and thought for a while, then looked at each other again. When they saw the doubtful looks in each other's eyes, Shen Loxi and Sulitsi shook their heads at the same time. Have no idea. The songbirds gather in Jingjiang, the water and trees are in Qinghua. Shen Loxi and Sulitsi didn't figure out the true origin of the word Jinghua. Zhang Fengjai took the initiative to explain without any surprise. This is from Yuzhika by Xiehan, a great poet in the Eastern Jin dynasty. It mainly refers to the clear and beautiful scenery of the garden, which can be called a holy land on earth. If used in a name, the word Jinghua means to be outstanding and to be the best. He reached out and took a sip at the job seeker's resume placed in front of Sulitsi, and Zhang Jinghua's resume flew directly into his hand. When Zhang Jinghua saw that in the column of home address, he filled in Professor Garden Community, Zhenguan Street, Fuku City, he couldn't help but ask Sulitsi with a wry smile. Sister Litsi, you have been to Zhangzhuang with me, you should know what people in the village call me. Little fairy, Sulitsi replied immediately. After all, the entire Zhangzhuang, from the octogenarians in their 90s to the children who had just learned to run, would respectfully call Zhang Fengjai little god when they saw Zhang Fengjai for the first time. This was the deepest impression on her. And an unforgettable scene. Because this means that Zhang Fengjai has convincing character and moral character. Otherwise, it is impossible to gain the respect of everyone. The little fairy in the east of the village, the little prodigy in the west of the village, this is what the people in the village call Brother Jinghua and me. After putting down Zhang Jinghua's resume in his hand, Zhang Fengjai introduced it with a look of memory in his eyes. I am called the Little Immortal because I used the Taoism and physiognomy taught by Third Grandpa to help the village solve some supernatural things. Brother Jinghua is called a little prodigy because he is really smart. Not only did he know 1,000 words and hundreds of schools of thought at the age of 3, he could recite Tang poetry and song lyrics at the age of 4, and he was familiar with the 4 books and 5 classics at the age of 5, and it only took him 5 years. He completed 9 years of compulsory education alone, and was admitted to the best affiliated high school in Fuku City with the second highest score in the city's high school entrance examination. As the saying goes, heroes cherish heroes, and heroes cherish heroes. Sulitsi, who suddenly interrupted Zhang Fengjai's introduction, couldn't help but asked in confusion. Yizi, since you and Zhang Jinghua are from the same village, and are known as the little god and the little prodigy respectively, your relationship should be very good. Why is Zhang Jinghua's attitude towards you so cold and indifferent? Well. Hearing Sulitsi's question, Zhang Fengjai couldn't help but sigh softly for the second time. Brother Jinghua's original name is Qingqi. My third grandfather gave him the name when he was just born. It is taken from the great poet Tao Yuanming of the Eastern Jin dynasty's Giwen Tianzhu. The word Gui means that his life will be ordinary, free from disasters, and happy throughout his life. But since Brother Jinghua showed his intelligence like a child prodigy, his parents, who expected him to succeed, paid a high price to have a half-immortal in the city give him a new name, which is now Jinghua. Titled on the gold list, ranked among the top 3. That's wrong. Shen Loxi suddenly interrupted Zhang Fengjai's introduction, then pointed at Zhang Jinghua's resume and asked. Yizi, if Zhang Jinghua is really a child prodigy as you just said, then he should at least have been admitted to one of the highest universities in China. Why did he only go to a very ordinary undergraduate architecture school in the end? Logo 11, in our practice of yin and yang, 5 elements, feng shui and physiognomy, there are 1 destiny, 2 luck, 3 feng shui, 4 accumulation of yin virtues and 5 readings, 6 7 phases and 8 gods, 9 noble friends and 10 health maintenance. Among them, the name that occupies the 6th place is the name we were given when we were born. A name can sometimes not only change a person's personality, but also affect a person's future fortune. Well, when he lowered his head and glanced at the work experience filled in Zhang Jinghua's resume, he saw that they were just fake awards and dreams, and he couldn't help but sigh for the 3rd time. Half an hour before Brother Jinghua was born, the sky suddenly became dense with dark clouds, lightning flashed and thunder, indicating that a violent storm was about to come. And at the moment when Brother Jinghua was born, the dark clouds instantly dissipated, the lightning immediately disappeared, and the sky was completely clear. This is a sign of a miracle from heaven, the birth of a sage, and a destiny of great fortune and honor in our Taoist physiognomy. But unfortunately, 13 minutes after Brother Jinghua was born, the clear blue sky suddenly blew up with strong winds and heavy rains. This shows that Brother Jinghua's destiny is not enough to bear the profound blessings of a sage, and he can only have the luck of a sage for 13 years in the end. Speaking of this, Zhang Fengjai looked up and looked directly at Shen Loxi and said, "Loxi, although the 13 years of sage luck brings amazing wisdom, it ultimately results in a lifetime of mediocrity. This strong contrast can easily cause psychological imbalance and may eventually completely destroy a person. This is the real reason why I didn't want you to make up a new identity." So, the 3rd grandfather, who rarely cares about the village affairs, personally came forward to name him Chen Gui, hoping to use the name to dilute his 15 years of sage luck, so that he can live a simple and happy life. I understand. After hearing Zhang Fengjai's story, Shen Loxi and Sulitzi nodded with a look of understanding in their eyes. The Best Physiognomist. Author, Yanyun Yuqi. Chapter 430. Yongsheng Group, in the conference room. In fact, the reason why Zhang Jinghua treated Zhang Fengjai so coldly and even didn't want him to do better than himself was nothing more than strong jealousy. Because in the eyes of ordinary people, the praise and status of a smart and good little prodigy must be far greater than that of a little fairy who pretends to be a god, which makes Zhang Jinghua have an inexplicable sense of superiority in front of Zhang Fengjai. However, when the sage luck that supports intelligence and talent completely disappeared, when he fell from a little prodigy who was envied and praised by everyone to a mediocre person, Zhang Jinghua certainly couldn't adapt to this strong contrast and eventually got a red-eye disease. If he was facing an unknown stranger, without the influence of strong contrast, he might be able to accept the fate of mediocrity calmly. But when he met an acquaintance from his youth, the psychologically unbearable contrast would make his mentality unbalanced. Especially when he met Zhang Fengjai, the little fairy who was as famous as him in his childhood, who not only did not fall from the altar and return to mediocrity, but also became a prosperous person. This psychological gap of heaven and earth made the red-eye disease that had been lurking all the time immediately break out. At the same time, Shen Loxi finally understood why Zhang Fengjai was dissatisfied with her unauthorized change of his identity. Because people have a certain limit to their tolerance. If Zhang Jinghua could not bear the psychological gap of heaven and earth, he might eventually do something stupid like looking for a dagger, then she would be the indirect murderer who killed him. Although she would not bear legal responsibility, she and Zhang Fengjai would inevitably be condemned in their conscience. Thinking of this, Shen Loxi quickly stood up and bowed her head to apologize. Yezi, I'm sorry, it's all my fault. I shouldn't have humiliated and provoked Brother Jinghua without authorization. Loxi, it's okay. After waving his hand to comfort, Zhang Fengjai looked at the chair that Zhang Jinghua had made and sighed with a complicated expression. It's time, fate, and luck. It's not my fault. If brother Jinghua can't break through the demons in his heart, then it's his destiny. After sighing, he pointed to Alvis behind him and introduced him. Loxi, Mr. Alvis is not only an expert in the field of construction, but also a good friend of mine. His ability and character are completely trustworthy, so he is the best candidate for the deputy director of the project department. Okay, I'll listen to you. Originally, the ideal candidate for the deputy director of the project department was Alvis. Now even Zhang Fengjai took the initiative to recommend him. Shen Loxi nodded in agreement without any objection. Afterwards, she and Sulitzi continued the next interview. Fortunately, during the conflict between Zhang Fengjai and Alvis, they did not stop the interview work, so there were only 3 interviewees left. In the end, it only took 10 minutes to successfully end the largest interview of Yongsheng Group. After handing over the next work to Sulitzi and Wang Denmei, Shen Loxi walked to Zhang Fengjai's side, then stretched out her slender white jade hand, and invited her with tenderness in her eyes. Yezi, I want to invite you to a candlelight dinner tonight. I wonder if you would do me the honor. It's my honor. First, she glanced at Sulitzi with the corner of her eyes, and found that she didn't care about Shen Loxi's invitation alone, so she knew that the candlelight dinner must have been discussed in advance. So, after holding Shen Loxi's soft and smooth jade hand, Zhang Fengjai smiled and accepted the other party's invitation. When the red Ferrari slowly left the underground parking lot and drove quickly into the wide road, 2 silver vans that had been parked in front of the building for several hours quickly followed. Just as the 2 silver vans also drove into the wide road, a black SUV business car that had also been parked for several hours also followed behind the vans. Just as the black SUV also drove into the wide road, another black Land Rover SUV followed closely behind the business car. Looking at the 2 silver vans through the rear-view mirror of the sports car, Zhang Fengjai's eyes flashed with a terrifying cold light, and he asked with an expectant smile on his face. Loxi, what are you going to treat me to for the candlelight dinner tonight? Shen Loxi, who didn't notice the danger at all, said with a smile. Yezi, I know you don't like the atmosphere and food of Western restaurants, so I chose a very distinctive turtle restaurant as the location for today's candlelight dinner. I don't know if you like it. Turtle is good. Zhang Fengjai licked his lips and nodded, saying with great anticipation. It is not only a delicious dish for a high-class banquet, but also a precious medicinal material that nourishes yin and yang. If it can be paired with a few pots of strong liquor, it will be a wonderful enjoyment in the world. Seeing the aftertaste on Zhang Fengjai's face, Shen Loxi promised with a smile. Don't worry. I've already asked the boss to prepare the best Fenjiu in advance, which will definitely make you savor the food and drink comfortably. Enjoying a romantic and warm candlelight dinner is important, but Zhang Fengjai is more looking forward to the activities after dinner, so he can't help but test Shen Loxi's attitude in advance. Loxi, don't worry. No matter how much wine I drink, I will never delay the business tonight. What's the matter? He turned his head and looked at Zhang Fengjai with doubts in his eyes. When she noticed that he was looking at her with malicious eyes, she immediately guessed what the business he just mentioned was, and Shen Loxi suddenly blushed and spat softly. Bah, I will go home by myself after dinner, and I will never give you any chance to get close to me. Logo 11. Where are you thinking? The business I just talked about was discussing how to better develop the group after dinner. I don't know what you are thinking about all day long. Although he was thinking very much in his heart, he refused to admit it, which made Zhang Fengjai couldn't help but have ridiculing thoughts. Yezi, I'm angry. It was obviously you who had that idea first, but in the end you were wronged. Zhang Fengjai's teasing tone made Shen Loxi complain with dissatisfaction, and then looked ahead angrily. Instead of apologizing or expressing relief, Zhang Fengjai took this opportunity to quietly perform a sword attack. After ejecting through the car window, he used his mind to control the invisible sword energy and directly pierced the tires of a silver van behind him. Although it was the rush hour that was approaching the end of get off work and there was a lot of traffic on the road, the speed of the silver van behind was not very slow in order not to lose track of the red Ferrari sports car. Therefore, at the moment when the tire was punctured by the invisible sword energy, the silver van suddenly skidded and crashed directly into a very domineering luxury car next to it.